Hello everyone, welcome to my screencast for creating the Spring Boot with Angular 4. Let's get started with creating new project. In the create now project, select the Spring Initializer where you can choose you get the Bootstrap application and you don't need to create from scratch and you don't need to do additional setup. Let's click next. Enter the group details that you wish to have. In my case, I will add com Morsu Spring Boot. I have an artifact defined as Angular 4 Spring Boot, and let's get started. Next step you need to do is to make sure you have type set up as a Gradle project and make sure the packaging is set up to jar. You can do both, either ways, var or jar file, doesn't matter. In this case I choose jar and click next. Next, let's choose some of the dependencies that we need for our project. In this case, we just need web as a dependency. We don't need anything else for simple project setup. Let's click on next and finish. So you choose to create the empty directories and everything is auto imported and click OK. So now you should see all the folder structures getting created. Should see source file, source folder, source under source folder. You should see the main Java and the Spring Boot. So you have a Spring Boot application created by default using the Spring Initializer, and you have a resources folder. You have static folder, templates, and application properties, and the Gradle build file. It should be created for you. So let's open up the Gradle build file. You should have a bare default build file created for you, and you should see all the plugins. Let's change our plugin from Eclipse to IDEA since we are using IntelliJ, and you should see that folder structure. Okay, so next step, let's go to the browser. Let's type in the cli.angular.io. You should see instruction how to install the Angular CLI using npm. To get npm, you should have node installed. And so follow through the instructions to get your CLI set up on your local machine. That way you don't have to spend too much of time in this video to do that setup. Let's go back. In the IntelliJ, the good feature you have is terminal. You can open up the terminal window right in IntelliJ screen itself. So in this case, let's run some commands to create the new project. So I will type in ng new frontend as my project, frontend client as my frontend folder as my client project. You can choose your own name or whatever you like, but in my case I choose frontend and click enter. So now you should see all the files created by ng, and it will automatically once at least the basic setup is done, you should see the IntelliJ automatically finds the setup framework setup, and then it automatically helps you for IntelliSense and stuff for Angular 4 programming. Let this setup be done. Let's give a second or two. In the meantime, let's go to Gradle build, and let's try to set up a plugin that we need for having the ng build integrated to our build project. That way, whenever you run a build, it will make sure the ng the node is properly installed and all your compilations are done for Angular. So for that, I will add an maven structure, and you give the URL as https plugins.gradle.org/m2, and then you have a class dependency. Let's give the class dependency as class path, and we need a movework plugin. So for that, we just say com.movework.gradle as a group, and then the artifact as Gradle node plugin, and give the version. That's the version I use, but you can Google and find a version that's well suited for you. But when I start off, we have 1.1. So let's try to apply the plugin for our build. Apply plugin com movework.node Then let's type in some of the dependencies that we have. So I already have this handy, that way I don't spend time in typing. So first thing, node, add a node structure where you have a version and you have a download is equal to true. What you're saying is you take the version, download the node, make sure that that's available for you. So let's check the version. So node minus v will give the version. In my case, it's 7.5.0. Let's change it to 7.5.0, and we are saying download is equal to true, and make sure your module directory is good for your project. Whatever we created as a front end client, you just need to make sure you have that front end module directly defined in the node. Okay, so that's how node will know where our Angular files are. Next step, let's add some of the task dependencies. First setup is build client dev, where we will build the this is for development environment, where we build the whenever you build it, it will actually build the front end source files, and make sure it uses a package JSON and everything, and builds the files. The next is a build client, which is a production version of the compilation that you want to build jar file using the build command. Next is we have watch command, where you watch the files that are built. You want to make sure you move them to from front end to your web folder. So that's the task is needed for the watch, to make sure that you have right files copied over properly after building. You don't need a client test. Let's take this out for our demo. We don't need it. You can add an integration test or any kind of additional task. Next thing, let's do this. We what we do is boot run is depend. We will make it as a dependency on the boot build client dev. That way, it will run whenever you run the boot run. It will automatically kicks off the build client. Next, jar depends on the build client. That's a production version. Whenever you build a jar, it runs the build client. It will actually compile the front end and move to your proper artifacts for you. Okay. Next, let's go to Angular CLI.json file. In the Angular CLI.json file, under app section, you want to make sure output directory is properly set up. So we'll set up it to source main. Our folder structure is source main resources and static. So that's where we would like to copy. When after the build is complete, you want to take the compiled version of files and put into your Angular files into the resources folder under static. Okay, so that's where you want to move it. Next, that's I think that's about it. Let's close this off. Let's move on to different file now. Let's go to the next file we would like to change is package.json. Where is it? Yeah, there it is. Now in this file, you want to make sure you have the script set up properly. You want to have our build client dependency that we created in the Gradle is properly set up, and we need to have production build properly set up and the build watch properly set up. So let's change existing build to say build ng build prod. So the next one, you want to have development build for your dev work. So let's change the build name, the name of the key to build dev, and then ng build is your command. And the next one is let's add a build watch to watch the builds, and that would be ng build watch is equal to true. So we should make sure it will watch once the build is done. It will make sure it will copy over the files to your destination folder. So next, I think that's pretty much it. Let's go to our Gradle file, and I think we are done. Let's go again. Let's make sure our configuration is right. Let's go to Gradle and just review at a high level. Our configuration is good. Let's check on the Spring Boot application. Okay, everything looks good. Let's go to Gradle. Let's see the tasks now. Okay, so we get the configuration check. It automatically initializes the facets for your Spring configuration application properties and so on. Okay, so next let's move to tasks. So in the tasks, you should see the build under build group. You should see build client and build client dev, and under applications, you see build client watch. Oh, we have spell mistake. Let's fix it. Let's go to build Gradle and change our watch task to properly change fix that spell. Okay, that's it. That's pretty much it. You don't need to. You can actually give a, whichever task you wanted, but you want to make sure you have it done right. All right, let's go. Here in this case, it's correct. In the app package.json, let's run the application by clicking on build run. Sorry, boot run. It automatically once you click on the blue boot run, double click on the boot run, it automatically should start the build. Node setup and node install should be detected and automatically say if it is available, it skips it and starts the ng build automatically for your Angular folder for front end. Once the build is done, ng build is done, it automatically copies all the files to your web folder for the Spring Boot. It should, if you go to your source static, now you should see all the JS files are copied, built, and copied over to your static, and everything should be there. Let's go to now. I think let's go to web and see how it looks. Let's start typing in localhost 8080. You should see app works. If you see app works, everything works okay. Thanks for watching my video and subscribe for more. Thank you. Have a good day.